You don't know whether there are audience for Tamil stand-up comedy or not. The minute you say Tamil stand-up comedy, people's mind will go to the TV comedy. I was doing corporate events and then I came to stand-up comedy, so it was ulta.
Unique.
Because the minute you get on stage, you say something and then 50 people are laughing, you will feel like that a buttload of endorphins will get released all over your body and you will feel like you're a king or something like that.
You're just redefining the dopamine.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah.
How's it going, Jagan?
Going fine so far. Had two wonderful shows yesterday and day before. So far, life is good.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So I think a lot of people don't know about the beginning, and you are, rising comedy star, stand-up comedy in India, especially in the regional side of it, which is Tamil.
Yes.
How did it started? I mean, what triggered you to do comedy by leaving the very good paying full-time job in IT?
Yeah.
Where you had a chance to go around places, of course, not as a stand-up comedian, but as a, on-site project or some sort of shit.
See, that didn't happen. That's the reason why I became a stand-up. Jokes apart, like that's where my journey started. Like I was working in an IT company and I used to follow stand-up comedy a lot when I was working there. And
you working in Chennai?
Chennai, yeah. I was working in Chennai, India. So, and I was in not just one company. I was just juggling between companies here. I worked in 3 IT companies.
Otherwise, you'll not qualify for the IT employee.
Yeah, exactly. What else is there other than like jumping companies and then hiking our own salaries and then not knowing what to do and then shifting companies again. So that's the life cycle of an IT employee, So that's how it started. So I was working in a company and I used to follow stand-up comedy a lot. And back then there were very, very less avenues. There were not even like proper open mics happening in Chennai. So it was more like, okay, at some point of time it will happen. If at all there is a chance for me to do something like stand-up comedy, I'll try and pursue. Luckily, what happened was in one of the companies that I was working in around 2014, 2015. So what happened was a group of employees gathered together. They started what is called as a comedy club within the company.
Wow.
So
which company was
it's Cognizant.
Oh, Cognizant.
Yeah, surprising. The reason is because it was a HR initiative. They encouraged it. It's not like a very noble initiative. I think I can be very open. The main reason for them to start it is because it's very hard to bring entertainers from outside the company to come and perform for company events.
It was cost-saving measure.
Exactly.
And
still it's employee engagement, promoting talents from in-house and all those things. So
Cognizant employees, if you are looking for your career in stand-up, you are in the right place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope so. I don't know whether the comedy club still exists though. So I don't know if it exists. So that's where I started. So they used to have this annual kind of event wherein they'll showcase, they'll have round of auditions, they'll ask people to come and perform, be it stand-up comedy or mime.
So it was not specific to stand-up, it was all over.
Overall, yeah. So because mimicry and mime is the primary, like it's the bigger art form than stand-up comedy back then.
Yeah.
And stand-up comedy was like very, very at a very nascent stage. It was very niche. A lot of people did.
This was in 2015.
2015, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
2015, even in Chennai, like you can see very handful of comedians. In India, it was, at that time, it was like booming. It was like crazy. Slowly, people were coming up. A lot of new comedians started coming up. The comedians who are big right now, they used to be in Bangalore and Mumbai and Delhi and all these places. So in Chennai, it was very, very minimal at that time. So that's when I started. I just wanted to take a shot. Just participated there, and then surprisingly I won second place, and the other two guys were like, they were doing only mimicry.
Open mic or?
No, it's not an open mic. So it's like the company event.
Okay.
So what they'll do is they'll just have multiple rounds. They'll make you perform, and in the end, like you'll be performing in front of 500 employees in one location, and they'll invite a chief guest. At that time, that event, they invited a guest called Mr. Crazy Mohan. So Crazy Mohan is a very famous playwright and a comedy writer. So he's in Tamil. Yeah.
Okay.
He's very famous. He always collaborates with Kamal, Rajni to give all the comedy films. Cool. Yeah. He's such a big writer. He's a well-known figure. He's a great humorist. So he was the chief guest. He presided over the event. and I got prize from him. So that's when I started doing comedy.
Was it a trigger point to getting award from?
Exactly. So that ideally, if you're writing a story, that will be the triggering point, right? So for me, I wanted to be much more pragmatic, saying that okay, this is going to be a one-off event.
So you haven't taken yourself
Yeah.
so much serious.
Yeah. So I said, okay, it's just an accident. It just happened. Don't take this seriously. You're still in IT. Remember your goal. You're
You have to pay your bills.
Yeah, you have to pay your bills. You have to end up getting a visa, travel on site. That should be the goal. So that's what I used to think. And then in the same comedy club, I met another fellow stand-up comedian called Manoj Prabhakar. He's also from Chennai. So he introduced me to the open mic scene, which is much later. So he said, like, come and try it in open mics. This is nothing. So only when you come to open mics and then keep grinding, that's when you get to know how exactly difficult stand-up comedy is. So I didn't take that seriously. 3-4 months, I started getting a lot of events within the company itself.
Yeah.
So that's when I realized, okay, if we are doing only within the company, I'm not going to grow. So what is it?
After that event, when you won that event, have you got offer from within Cognizant to?
Yeah. Many events. Yeah. So every time some other team will go to some team outing, there will be some conference or something like that. So as an icebreaker, they'll always want to have a stand-up comedian.
Second, you know what?
Yeah.
A lot of the comedians, they first pick when they enter in the market to, they're targeting the corporate events.
Yeah.
And before you start your career, you had corporate events.
Exactly. I was doing corporate events and then I came to stand-up comedy. So it was
Which is
ulta.
unique.
Yeah. Complete opposite of it. So that's how it basically began. So then I started doing an open mics and then I kept doing it.
Okay. So that's where 2015, where you realized that, okay, this is one of the avenue I can explore. When did you, started taking it seriously and decided to switch eventually as a full-time comedian? Or in other words, before that happens, how was the reaction from your parents?
I'm lucky in the fact that both my parents as well as my wife, they were always supportive in these kind of regards. They were not like, oh my God, you're an adult, don't do these kind of kiddish thing, focus on your career, the monthly salary, insurance, fixed deposits, mutual funds. So they still like that, but whenever I pursue these kind of things, they've always been very encouraging. Right from my childhood, my mother, she used to encourage a lot of these kind of cultural activities, me participating in cultural activities. So I used to participate in school as well as we'll have this the colony association and all those things, So they'll have this annual event.
Have you done any stand-up in your...
No, back then I have no idea what... I was interested in comedy. I always wanted to do something funny because the main reason is because when you're funny on stage, you'll immediately grab the attention of the audience. If you do anything else, people will be like, okay, they'll appreciate you. Yeah. But being funny is like very, very good. So that's always been a good part. That's always been one part that I focused in whatever that I was doing on stage. So I used to even participate in this kind of oratorical competitions, the speech and all those things, So even in that, I try to like infuse humor into it. So I've always been fascinated by being funny on stage because, I'm basically an attention seeker of. If you're a stand-up comedian, you have to be an attention seeker.
Yes. Without that,
there's no point. So that is my inner sense. So and being funny was like one of the biggest plus points that you can have when you're performing on stage because you immediately get the audience attention and the audience will be able to appreciate it. Imagine like that's kind of like I don't know if it's the right word to use, but people will say it's kind of like a drug because the minute you get on stage, you say something and then 50 people are laughing, you will feel like that a buttload of endorphins will get released all over your body and you will feel like you're a king or something like that.
You're just redefining the dopamine.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah. So that's basically how it was. So my parents were right from a very young age. They were encouraging my father never he'll never complain and never participate in all these things. So I used to participate in almost all the events, be it singing, dancing.
So was it something came from your DNA anywhere, like either your mom or dad, where they were little bit, had a...
We are living in a world where we are not supposed to believe in those kind of things, but I don't know, maybe, yeah. Sometimes it's your parents and your family's behavior that becomes a part of your own nature, no?
Yeah.
So both my father's side as well as mother's side, they're all like very, very passionate about music. Be it film music or be it classical music and everything. My mother sings really well. Most of my aunts, my father's sisters, they sing really well. And right from a very young age, it's like every single aspect of my life has been associated with some song. It's almost like a musical right out of Bollywood. So so that's how it has been. So singing and these kind of cultural and fine art activities, and then dressing up, and then going and acting and everything. So it's always been a part, I guess. So
so there was some connection to music.
Definitely. Yeah, very big connection to music. So they're all very passionate music listeners. So I used to have a song when I was waking up. When I was a kid, I'm talking about. My aunts will come and sing. They sing like in a choir. They'll come and sing to wake me up. They'll come and sing to make me eat food. They'll come and sing. They'll come and sing.
Grown up listening music.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. Yeah.
Okay, so cut to from 2015 to when you entered, the stand-up comedy as a career. What was the year?
20. So the full time. So I can actually split it into 2 or 3 parts. So the first thing is 2015 when I was doing it, I was actually doing it in English because that was the norm. That was like everybody was doing it in English. So I made a very conscious decision of switching to Tamil by 2017, which was at that point of time probably the first biggest risk that I took in stand-up comedy, because Tamil stand-up comedy was they were. You don't know whether there are audience for Tamil stand-up comedy or not. The minute you say Tamil stand-up comedy, people's mind will go to the TV comedy.
Yeah.
So that is not going to sit well with this. So that's the first decision that I took. That is because that's when a new open mic kind of hangout community started coming up.
Were there open mic in Chennai?
Yeah. At that time it started. So the earlier it used to be very less. There was like one group which is Burma Bazaar Conspiracy. So BBC.
Burma Bazaar Conspiracy.
Yeah. So they used to conduct open mic very sparsely. And then around 2015, 2016, another group called Chennai Comedy came out. So they used to conduct open mics every week. So that used to be the only open mic with respect to stand-up comedy. You have all arts open mic that is happening in many other places, but only Chennai Comedy was organizing stand-up open mics on weekdays and very specific places. So that was the only avenue wherein you can go and test your material. And then eventually in 2017, a couple of other open mics started coming up. One open mic which was dedicated to Tamil stand-up comedians was Tanglish Comedy Open Mic. So Tamil English. So they mixed it together, Tanglish Comedy, where preference was given to people who are trying to do Tamil stand-up comedy. So when that came about, I realized that that's when I realized there is a great deal of audience that really want to see stand-up comedy being done in Tamil. Because till then, we had no idea. So only when that came, you will not believe, like open mic, we always get 5 to 10 people as the audience, right? So Tanglish Comedy regularly brought in 30 people as audience, which is unheard of. Back then, even if you get 30 people for a show, it's considered to be a successful show in Chennai. So for open mic, 25 to 30 people used to come regularly on a weekday. So that's when I realized, there is a good deal of audience here. And let me try and do it in Tamil. I know it's risky, but let me try and do it in Tamil. So that's the first one. And the second one that I did was coming out of IT. That's the first decision that I had to make. Because even that was a big decision for me, because I had offers before to come out of IT and then work for some media company so that I can pursue stand-up comedy. But I was very skeptical because the monthly salary was like the big clutch for me. So I didn't want to leave that at point, because I was already married. I had 2 kids who were growing up. So so all these things are there. So it looked like a very big risk for me. So what I did was in 2018, Rajiv Rajaram, so he's like, I consider him as my mentor. So he owned this channel called Put Chutney, which is part of a Culture Mission Media, a company. So they used to run all these other Being Indian and a couple of other channels. So I got an offer from them saying that, would you like to join our company as a creative content writer and then other branding and marketing writing and all those things. So it was for a lesser salary than what I was getting at IT.
Yeah.
So that's when I discussed with my wife, and then my wife was at that point of time like, if you're not going to take this risk now, you will never be able to take it again. So please take it up. Let's see. Let's figure out how it goes, and then we can always.
This must be a turning point because
Yeah.
getting that, positive feedback and push from your loved ones
Yeah.
is very, very important
Yeah.
to get into this risky
Exactly.
careers.
Exactly. So I actually wanted her to tell don't go. I really thought that she'll say, okay, don't go, be in IT and then keep doing stand-up comedy. But she was the one who pushed me into taking this job. Say that it's okay, it's fine. If it's 5K, 6K less, it doesn't matter. We can still run our family. We can somehow manage it. Go and try. And that became one of the best decisions of my life because that's when I was able to focus on stand-up comedy very seriously. Because it's not like your usual job when you have to like swipe your access card, be there for 9 hours or anything like that. They'll say that if I have a show, they'll just give you the permission. As long as you get the work done for the month in that company, it's fine. So that's how everybody used to operate because that's all the people who are working there in that media field, their aspiration is to become something like direct a movie or go and act in a movie or do these kind of shows. So that happened. And then in 2019, I had to like, the company was like, there was a handover takeover. Somebody bought the company completely and the YouTube wing had to shut down.
Yeah.
So that's when I started doing full time. Like even this was not there. The monthly salary was not there. So completely dependent on stand-up comedy was like 2019. Not exactly completely. Why you still do writing works and
You
everything.
just bring the COVID. You just bring the COVID.
That was the scariest time. So 2019, I thought, okay, 2020 is going to be my year, just like most of the other people. And it was nobody's year, unfortunately.
Oh, all right. Okay, so you talked about the trigger point. Now, what were your inspiration once you entered into full-time stand-up comedy? Who do you look up to? Be it a Tamil comedian, be it any Indian Hindi comedian, or any global comedian?
So when I started doing stand-up comedy, so 2015 I'm talking about. So the influences predominantly will be like from the US, UK and everything. So for me, the two big inspirations were Frankie Boyle and Andy Kaufman, who are like, in my opinion, two ends of a comedy spectrum. Frankie Boyle is like your typical proper stand-up comedian who does jokes, and Andy Kaufman is this the weird comedian who claims that he has never told a single joke, but he's always known as a comedian. So both of their acts will be completely opposite. So these two guys were my biggest inspirations. I wanted to do something that can be a combination of both. So I wanted to be like very, very transgressive and boundary pushing and all those things like Frankie Boyle. And I also wanted to be very weird and absurd like Andy Kaufman. And then once I started doing more and more open mics, then I started watching a lot of comedians, how they do it. So there is no one particular inspiration. I look up to a lot of people. So when I came in, one comedian that I really loved watching was Praveen Kumar.
Yes.
So like I'm good friends with him now. Back then he was like, oh my God, this is Praveen Kumar. He's a star or anything like that, because he was the one person that I knew that I followed who had verified handle in Twitter. So for me,
That was a big deal back then, right?
that was like, okay, now you can buy anyone can buy blue tick now, so it doesn't matter. Back then it was such a huge deal because this guy had a verified handle and he's a comedian and he's also from Tamil Nadu, he's from Kanchipuram, and I was like, oh my God, if he can make it, there is a remote possibility like even I can also make it. So and then I used to look up to him. He was an amazing joke writer and I used to follow him a lot. And then there were so many other people, like one of my other most favorite comedian was Kanan Gill, and I love watching his special because his thought process is like phenomenal. I absolutely love it, and the way he approaches the stuff and everything, and he also does it in English. There is another comedian who I really love watching because he was Vaibhav Sethia. Vaibhav Sethia, just I can just give him a mic and I just want him to rant for half an hour and I can listen. He doesn't even have to tell jokes. I just love when he gets angry. So there are so many people, like once I got into stand-up comedy, it's all about this. And of course, there were people down south, be it Aravind Desai, be it Karthik Kumar, be it Alex, all these guys, because it was a very close, very small community, they all help us to learn how exactly you have to approach everything, every show or every material that you write as a stand-up comedian, what exactly you're supposed to do. Because we used to be very close back then when we were starting to do stand-up comedy. When I say we, I'm meaning my contemporaries, whoever is doing.
Yeah.
We used to be very close. We'll just go an open mic, we'll just perform and then we'll come out.
Yeah.
If it's good, people will say it's good. If it's bad, nobody will say any word. We all will take our bike and car and then we'll leave home. So that's when these guys used to come and say like, you guys are not talking to each other. You have to give feedback. That's what the other comedians do. That's what if you go and do, Zakir Khan does the same thing. Zakir Khan need not ask feedback from anybody. That guy goes and kills for half an hour, yet he comes backstage. He asks every comedian what happened. Kaisa tha, how was it? What exactly went wrong? What joke can I rework? So when a person like Zakir Khan is able to do it, what is stopping you from actually discussing your material with the fellow comics?
So I think stand-up industry as an industry being, quite small compared to other entertainment in Tamil or Bollywood or Telugu. I think one good thing Zakir also mentioned that, this is a close-knit community. And he being, such a big position in the career, he approaches to, new upcoming comedians. Even if, the comedian don't know him or he feel that, Zakir Khan is something big, we cannot reach him. He reach out to him and, say that, this was good thing. This is where you can improve.
Yeah.
Is this the same ecosystem in Tamil stand-up?
Yeah. Okay. Pretty much, yes. So this is all pushed down from the top. Yeah. So there are some comedians who will be very reserved. So it's up to them. They'll not share elaborate feedback and all. So some comedians, when you get to know them, they'll be very particular. They'll come to you and then say that, change this. This is not working. So that feedback mechanism, that opened a lot of things. So the minute we started doing that, now it's quite common. Back then it was not quite common. Even the biggest comedian that you have right now. So right now in Tamil Nadu, you can say the biggest comedian is Alex. So when I do a show, Alex, if Alex is there in the audience, he'll come to me and then say, hey, this material is good. You can change this, change that, but this worked really well. This probably you can work to something else and all those things. Even without asking, because we know that is exactly what we expect. That's exactly what. So I do the same thing with other comedians when they ask. So I used to give elaborate feedback to Aravind Desai. So just imagine, he goes and does sold out shows almost every week in various parts of the world. Yet when I'll send him a voice message saying that for me this worked, for me this didn't work. Why did you put this here? And he'll exchange the same thing. He'll also share his thoughts on what he has to do. So at that point of time, there is no the seniority and all these things will not come into mind, because it's mostly about how valuable your feedback is. So it's the same thing. I'm pretty sure that's almost like the same thing all over India.
Yeah.
Because there is no other choice or there is no other opportunity for us to grow or evolve. It's only purely through feedback mechanism that you can actually improve as a stand-up comedian. Because there is no you don't have to go to a nets, pad up and then bat every time to improve your shots. Because nobody's going to listen to you in open mic. You need a coach who can correct your stance, you can correct your shots and the way you're playing. In here, there is no specific coach and all. It's purely about the comedians, how one comedian exchanges with the other. So that's basically how it works.
Did your wife ever give you feedback?
No, I always test out my new material on her first. Anytime. Because as much as I love comics giving feedback, it's non-comics who actually listen and give you feedback. Their feedback is much more valuable because that's the audience that you're targeting. The audience who are going to come to your show, they are not comics, because comics will hardly laugh for jokes because they know the mechanics of...
They know the mechanics.
Yeah, they know the mechanics of how the joke works. So even when I go to a show, most of the times I'll start laughing even before the comedian hits the punchline, because I know where he's going. So it's quite obvious. I know, okay, when I hear the setup, so that's how every comic's brain works. So when the setup is there, because we are so familiar with these kind of things, so we'll know, okay, this is where the joke is going to come. But I always test out my material first on my wife. So, and then if she does not laugh, then I'll scrap it off, because she's the one person who I can make laugh so easily.
Does she give you a brutal feedback?
Of course, yes. I don't expect anything less from her. I want her to be brutal, because she'll say that, okay, I don't feel this is not right. Or she'll say very basic feedback saying that I think you need to rethink this through. That's all she said.
That's all we need.
But that's enough for me. So I'll sit down and then sometimes she actually contributes a lot of good punchline. Even some of the punchlines that I did in the show, wherein I suffered through transitions, she helped me with that. She gave very casually, she threw a punchline, and I found it to be so beautiful because I never expected. Like even a comedian did not give that feedback for a long time. And I was suffering through the transition for 4 shows. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was discussing with 3 or 4 comedians. Even they were not able to help. She casually mentioned the punchline and said, hey, you can say this and move on. No, and then, why didn't you say this all along? You know the entire show. Why did you not? So, yeah, she's very supportive in that regard. It's the matter of when she sometimes does not get the time to sit down and listen. Yeah, because she's also working.
Yeah.
But when she listens, she actually listens patiently and she gives feedback. And it also became some sort of a superstition for me because when I test the material out on her and then I go and perform, it always works well. So I sometimes blackmail her like that.
That's a good piece.
Yeah.
So when you enter into full-time into comedy, how was your surviving mechanism when you started full-time, giving up your job? Was it a corporate gig? Was it a live comedy shows? Or what was your surviving, techniques, or how it started, and how was that experience? Like now you're established, but then back in the days when you just resigned and with the completely no clue as to how the stand-up comedy as a career will turn out commercially. How will I survive?
Yeah.
What will be my future? What was that experience?
Well, I was shit scared, and if I'm sorry for the pardon my friends and whatnot. So I was so scared because I've never been without a monthly salary. So every month, the last day, 31st, 30th or 1st, I'll get a salary. So the first thing that I realized was that is not going to happen when I did full time. And it was 2019 end, I was mentioning, no? So I was nervous. I was very, very nervous, knowing that, okay, what if I didn't get a show for an entire month? What is going to be my income? I don't have much savings also. How much can I save? So these were my biggest worrying points at that time. Because how am I going to manage my expenses? Because I cannot put my wife through all the burden. That is very cruel. I have to support her in some way. And but then we started doing live shows. We started doing we used to do this show called Academy Awards, which is an annual kind of thing. That's when we started. 2020.
So you were writing for someone?
Yeah, no. It's a show that 4 of us did. So it's basically like AIB Ghanta Awards, right?
Oh.
So it's the Tamil version of it.
Okay.
It's like a spoof award show that we give for movies. So it's like it's me, Praveen, Kumar, Manoj, and Mervin. So of the 4 of us. So we did this show called Academy Awards, and we know that we have something good in our hands. So the entire 2020 we started with that, and we were so optimistic about that show because we know that the show is going to be received very well. And our main idea was once the video is released, all of us will go and launch our own solo show. And 2020 we are going to destroy it,
Kill it.
But then we did the final India show in March, and that's when lockdown got announced, and my worrying tripled, quadrupled, and everything.
That's what I was thinking, because the moment you said 2019 was the starting year,
No.
that was a shit year for entire world.
Yes. If it was 2019 beginning also, I would have survived. It's 29 towards the end when I started doing stand-up comedy full time, and 2020 within just 3 months you have this lockdown coming up. All the venues are closing, and all my shows got cancelled. I was supposed to come to Australia in the March. That got cancelled. We were supposed to go to Dubai and do the Academy Award show. That got cancelled. Singapore show got cancelled. So all these things are cancelling one by one. And that's when I was sitting there. I really started panicking. I talked to my wife, and then I really asked, can I go for a job? So I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what exactly is going to happen. I thought I'll do stand-up comedy full time, but if this is going to be the case, I cannot do it. So she said, don't be in a hurry. Wait. 3 months at least, you just wait and you see what is going to happen. And luckily something like that happened. So that's when Zoom shows started happening. We hated Zoom shows, but there is no other choice for me. I loathe Zoom shows because it's painful, it's irritating, but you had to do it. So luckily I got one corporate gig like that, gave me the biggest cushion. So it is one of the worst experiences that any comedian can have, because I had to do shows continuously for 10 days in Zoom, morning and evening.
That was a corporate gig
Corporate
on
gig.
Zoom.
Yes, corporate gig on Zoom. Day one,
What was the audience size?
300 on Zoom.
Each.
200, 300, it will vary.
Okay.
So it's a company that was doing this show for all its employees all over India. I can't mention the company name, obviously. So they were doing it all over India. So they scheduled it in such a way. They want to do it in such an elaborate way. So 10 days we had to do this, and I will get up in the morning. The morning show will be at 9 to 10 I have to do it. And then I'll be exhausted. I'll have to take care of my kids, clean vessels, cook, sweep and everything. Then evening, 7 o'clock it will start again, 7 to 8. And I'll feel shit, because you will never get the same kind of response in every show. Sometimes the morning show will go well. The evening show will be like so crap, because nobody will be listening. Yeah. It's Zoom. You cannot gauge the reaction of the audience. So this was like a big burden, and I used to do countdowns and all. Okay, day one completed. Okay, 9 more days to go. Okay, 8 more days to go. But I got paid a very hefty sum for doing that, and that put me through the lockdown. And slowly other sort of gigs started coming up, which helped me. So because the online consumption was there, and we also started doing some reaction videos and everything.
Yeah.
Because we had to like put out something. Because of that, we were able to do some sort of promo for online shows and everything. And I also got into web series writing at that time. I wrote a web series called Meme Boys for Sony Live. So I was one of the principal writers, and I was able to do that.
Okay. What is the name?
Meme Boys. Meme Boys. It's a Tamil web series. Yeah, I wrote that, and then I also, that's when all these kind of things, writing gigs and other gigs started opening up. And luckily, that's how I survived after a particular point of time.
So I think you had that Zoom course, the corporate gig was the breakthrough experience for you, which is a completely unconventional.
Yeah.
So how did you manage, or how did you get the reactions? The Zoom call being your first proper corporate gig, where you don't have a real conventional way to get the people's reaction and everything. The reason I'm asking is, comedy scene in India is quite young, because comedy across the world started 100 years before we even think of, because of we being under British rule. We have been told that Indians are humorously serious, versus Britons are seriously humorous. So once post independence, we got slowly the Bollywood started, the entertainment pick up. Comedy still was a side gig. 10 singers are singing. When they are tired, you are there to do some sort of mimicry.
Yeah.
And you put your mark.
Yeah.
Then eventually scene changed. The laughter show came on Sony, which was around 2005-06.
Correct.
Which changed the complete landscape ecosystem of comedy and its consumption. And eventually stand-up comedy took its way in India.
Yeah.
So how was your surviving techniques on okay, this set didn't land very well, this set didn't land well. What is your technique, or how do you keep improving yourself? What is your mechanism?
Same thing, like it's first of all, at the starting stage, like what you said, it's more about finding the grammar for Tamil stand-up comedy. So just like every language has their own culture for humor.
Lingo.
So we had this format called Pattimandram, which is basically Pattimandram. It's kind of like a debate wherein you will have a set of 3 speakers belonging to 2 teams, and then there'll be a topic, there'll be a like moderator, or you call them as judge, however you want to call it. So they'll be holding it. It'll be some generic mundane topic that we all like get in school and everything. So that used to be the bigger source of humor for Tamil people. So Pattimandram it's an annual convention. If you just switch on the TV during festivals like Diwali or Pongal or everything like that.
So is it like a banter?
It's not banter. So it's basically a debate. So
Yeah. Okay.
there'll be a speaker who will come and talk, but the idea behind Pattimandram is why people watch Pattimandram is it's not about the point, it's about how funny they are. So that always makes sells
so
the
that was- okay.
entire show. So even the monitor, the moderator, the judge, they'll also be very funny, and there are quite a few famous people doing that, and that was the base. So we had to take inspiration from that because there were no really there was not a lot of material for us to take guidance from for doing Tamil stand-up comedy in the first place.
Yeah.
So we had to take that grammar and we had to infuse the stand-up comedy grammar that we knew already, and then we do it. We kept repeating it again and again and again in open mics first. So then what happened was, very surprisingly, because we always thought that corporate gigs, they'll prefer English stand-up comedy because of HR policy and everything. But eventually they understood that, okay, 90% of the people working in Chennai, in most of the companies, they know Tamil. And the rest of the 10%, they can understand Tamil, it's just that they're not that fluent with it. So why bother with English stand-up comedy that many people might not be
That is
very
quite
comfortable?
funny that was a HR policy
Yeah.
to have an English stand-up comedy only.
Yeah.
What kind of shit policy?
Yeah, exactly. Because they will come from the point of view, okay, if we do Tamil stand-up comedy, if other employees complain.
Like that, multicultural.
Yeah. So but eventually that didn't matter actually to the audience. Even the other people started enjoying it because they were able to understand the context of what exactly is happening. Because when I go and perform in an IT company, because I also worked in an IT company, I do all this IT jokes, and I don't really have to say it properly in English for them to get it. They understand what I'm talking about, all these things, and it's a Tanglish style that I mix and do it.
Yeah.
So when I realized that also helped me grow, because as a stand-up comedian, you have to hate corporate shows. That's given. But I don't hate corporate shows because that's when only because I performed a lot of corporate shows, I grew up as a comedian. I evolved as a comedian because testing your material in that kind of a crowd, a closed crowd, and if they react positively, that is going to work in front of public audience just like this.
But then how do you manage the, corporate shows have hundreds of red carpets.
Yeah.
You can't do this, you can't do this.
Yeah,
can't take this.
yeah.
And just, out of nowhere, if someone who is the chief guest, could be politician or anything, and you have decided certain sets in your mind, which is completely opposite to the chief guest sitting there, how do you...
That's the growth.
the
No,
things?
that's how you grow. You have to adapt according to the situation, because you have to adapt according to the crowd. Some crowds will respond. Sometimes it's the guest that is going to be the problem. What I will do is, when I do IT-based stand-up comedy or even corporate stand-up comedy or anything for that matter, even if I don't involve this social topics or general politics and everything.
Yeah.
So I talk about even when I make fun of managers, or when I make fun of some senior officials, some of the people get offended actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was it any
Yeah, it happened.
with
It happened.
live show they get offended?
It happened. I got a elaborate feedback saying that no, this was not appropriate. Whatever that you did was not appropriate. We didn't expect this from you. This is you insulted some person and all those things. So at that point of time, you'll be very careless. Nah, come on, this is bullshit. Nobody cares about it. Yeah. But then I eventually realized that, okay, maybe what if I change some of the wordings? What if I change the way I presented the stuff? So it helped me grow, because the more I got exposed to that kind of crowd, especially hostile crowd, because most of the corporate gigs, these guys will be hostile and judgmental. So they'll be like, okay, try to make me laugh. I'm not going to laugh. You try to make me laugh.
Yeah.
Let's see if you can do it. Yeah. It's as though they'll have a chip on the shoulder. They'll come and they'll be in an attacking mode. No? So for me, those kind of challenges, when it presented itself, I wanted to take them head on, even though I was nervous, because I wanted to do that. When I go and crack that, that gave me a lot of experience doing that kind of shows. Because then when I come to public show, it was like cakewalk for me. Oh, these guys are coming here to enjoy. I can manage this crowd, because I've seen crowd that is worse than this. So
did you ever feel that stand-up comedy is mainly about how you're presenting the social economic issues in your own way, but then the curse words are part and culture of, our routine when you're talking to your friends. Do you use curse words in your stand-up comedy, or do you
Very
feel the need of it?
very sparsely, but yeah, sometimes you need to use that. No, see, it's not like we have this image, especially with respect to Indian comedy, or I can even say even Tamil comedy. No, so they'll say this clean comedy tag.
Yeah.
So they'll always associate with it because that is considered to be very beautiful for some reason.
Yeah.
We all use cuss words, we all use swear words in our daily life, and it's quite common. We all know it, but for some reason we put this clean tag towards comedy because that is considered to be very special. So I do that. For me, it's about like there is nothing wrong in using it, but the context of using it matters the most. So I don't believe in clean comedy. So it's either funny or it's not. That's all. Sometimes when you're registering your frustration, a bad word helps.
Yeah.
A cuss word helps because that's how I register my frustration. If you want to use like fuck, you have to use fuck. You cannot say like oh fudge. That doesn't make any sense. So you have to use it because if that's how you're going to use it in your real life. What is the point in like not doing that when you're actually doing the set?
Yeah.
When you're actually writing.
Not to be real.
Yeah, but in corporate setup, that's the irritating part. You cannot do exactly the same thing. They specifically ask you not to do political stuff. They'll specifically ask you
They
not to
give you the list.
yeah, of course. That's because I used to hate that when people said that, but I understood why. It's the HR, it's their job that is on the line.
Yeah.
The audience will enjoy. The audience, they are also very politically sound. They have knowledge. They do entertain these kind of topics. And of course, there are hell a lot of memes circulating around politics almost every day that you come through that makes fun of all the politicians, all the big leaders.
Yeah.
So it's not new with respect to comedy. All the people will enjoy. But it's just even if it's one complaint that comes from somebody, the HR's job is good. Their job will be on
They're
the
just doing that.
so they will be very strict about it. So it's just a matter of empathy. I understand why they had to do it, but it's fine. But in public show, it doesn't matter at all. Public show, like you have to advertise it properly. If it's an 18+ show, it will be an 18+ show. There is no question about it. If you are bringing kids to an 18+ show, that's your fault.
That's your fault.
It's not the comedian's fault.
I'm not return it to say.
Yeah, and we have seen, I mean, like Russell Peters show, kid is there, and then he'll make fun of that and all, no? So it's quite common. As long as you have an understanding of what exactly the show is, it's fine. And I don't, the cuss words or swear words, everything is part of comedy. It's about being funny. It's about making funny. Sometimes seeing somebody losing their shit is so funny, right? So, and they lose their shit because they lose their shit using cuss words, using swear words. And if you are a person in real life where you don't use it at all at any point of time, then I understand why you
Do you pre-decide or do you write your sets, or in other words, so comedy comes from either your own personal experiences, or you observe people a lot, or something you completely write it being a professional scriptwriter. These are the three major avenues.
Yeah,
So
correct.
what is your source of comedy writing? Could be hybrid.
So the third one is something that I don't believe in at all, which is like just pure joke writing. That's okay. That used to be the case. I can say that used to help a lot of comedians back in the 70s and 80s in US because these guys used to write for talk shows, sitcoms and everything. So you have to be a good joke writer. It doesn't matter because joke writing is also very common here. So it's basically you say something and I have to give a counter. That's it. That's joke writing. That's how it used to work there. It's one-liners and everything.
Yeah.
So I think it has evolved from that now. Now if you see all the Western, even here, Australia or UK, they've evolved it to such a level that they've created they've transformed comedy into a different kind of art form, wherein it's almost theatrical now. Most of the shows has become much more theatrical. It's not just a person standing in the mic and then delivering jokes. They are evolving. So for me, earlier when I did a show, we used to do it as a double act. I and Mervin, the other guy. So that was completely observations. So observations on, I used to do on Tamil music and he used to do it on everything else about Tamil cinema. It's purely observation, like, and how this music director is able to do this kind of songs, how this guy inspired this kind of songs, what will happen if he did this thing. So it's all observation. So we know that, okay, this is what they are doing in this song. We used to tell that. The show that I'm doing right now is much more personal. It's stories from my life. The entire show is about stories from my life, and it's about how I take it. And I consider that to be much more real because there is nobody can judge, or there is no scale, or there is no measurement as to what exactly this is, because it's purely personal. It's yours, and it will be original. If it happened in your life, that's original. There's still observational humor here and there that I'll just throw it away, because as a comedian you have to do that. But personal experience is where I'm moving in right now, because I always like to tell stories. I always like to share my personal experiences, and I always like to find like some kind of catharsis through art. So something that I went through in my life, and I need to have that maturity to transform some of the hard things, that painful things that happen in my life. I wanted to like channelize it through this. I still can't do most of the stuff. So there are a lot of other painful stuff that happen in my life that I still cannot channelize. But I just wanted to start at some point of time. So this show is basically that. Most of the stories that I share in this show, when it happened in my real life, it was not funny. It is.
I could in the show yesterday. I could, even though completely naive to Tamil as a language, I could relate many of the references you took. 90s kids, Orkut, Facebook, love marriage, arranged marriage. So those are the things which I could relate for. I could try to connect the dots here and there. But I can relate that, this is coming from a proper, neated story from your 90s and, the teenage and everything.
So you are able to pick those things up. So anybody can write on those topics, like what you said. That was the question, right? So you take Orkut, write a set on Orkut. It's basically an assignment. So, but what I shared with respect to Orkut is something that happened with my life. So it's the same thing, but it happened to me. So that makes it unique. So anybody can write about Orkut, but what happened when you put yourself in that situation? What happened in your life and what exactly you did? So that completely changes the entire setup.
Yes.
That makes it much more original, because I don't have to like take jokes. I don't have to be worried about, okay, did some other comedian write this joke? Okay, did some other comedian write this punchline? Because the punchlines vanish at that point of time. You try to be funny because something funny happened. You look back at it and now it's funny. It's just a retrospective of your entire life, So back then, I don't know how you would have taken. But right now, when I look at it, I found it funny. So I took incidents like that. So that, and then I threw it out. So I want to be able to do more of that stuff going forward. So it's all about evolution. But when I started out as a comedian, it's observational stuff that I was interested in. I point out, I take very mundane topics, traffic signals, food.
Topics.
Yeah, that is like the biggest exercise a comedian can have. A lot of people, what will happen is, like, including me, I'm not negating myself. When I got into comedy, I wanted to be like this guy. I wanted to be very serious. I wanted to be like a long form storyteller, like probably Billy Connolly or Patton Oswalt. I wanted to be like these guys. These guys are discussing complex topics, but nobody will listen to you when you're coming up. When you're coming up and talking about all these things, nobody will listen to you, because like, I don't even know who you are. I don't even know how funny you are. I don't even know what you're trying to say. So how am I able to? What gives me? How much should I invest in you to actually listen to you?
Yeah.
So when you're starting out, when I started out, that's when somebody gave me an advice saying, do observational comedy first. Take simple stuffs from your own life or from somebody else. Then like try to write jokes on it. For all of us, something like that would have happened. Everybody would have gone to gym at some point of time. Everybody would have traveled in an aeroplane at some point of time.
The relatability.
Or train. Yeah. So everybody can relate to it. Make simple observational jokes through that. So that's how I started it. And that's the reason why my first show was full of observational jokes. But I just made it pop culture-ish, that's all, rather than like general life. So I just made it pop culture-ish because pop culture, Tamil sells a lot. So that gave me the visibility that you have right now. So, and then like once that is done, even now people are asking for the same thing. Some of the people who came to the show, they'll ask like, why didn't you talk about this music director and that music director? That's the call that you have to make. So I say that, okay, that chapter is over. Now I'm trying to do something different. So you see what is going to happen here. Then we'll see how it goes forward. So like, I don't know what holds. Maybe like what you said, socio-economic issues and political issues. That will happen eventually at some point of time.
Yeah.
That is when I have to grow up as a comedian. I have to be in a very good state of mind. I have to have enough good dearth of experience to even address those topics and life experience.
Do you feel some sort of reservation or fear that, doing touching religion or political are the dangerous to individual's career. We have examples.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel those reservations when you are writing your jokes, when you're writing your sets?
Yeah. Not while writing or not even while performing. It's because when I get on stage and say stuff, that's when I'm the most fearless. It's when I get off stage, that's when the fear and other things start hitting you. Because on stage,